مطلقة
بفخر 3 مرات.
3 مرات مطلقة
على راس السطح، وبالمتعة ما بعرف قد العدد. شو بدي كذب؟
انت عم تلجأ لزواج المتعة ليه؟
هون خلصت هي.
كم عقد متعة عاملة؟
ما بعرف الرقم.
أطول زواج متعة قد ايه استمر؟
جمعة.
أقصر زواج متعة قد ايه؟
نص ساعة.
مكان اللقاء وين؟
بالسيارة.
بالسيارة؟ لهاللقاء النص ساعة بالسيارة قديش كان المبلغ اتفقتوا عليه؟
100,000.
يعني انت تستخدمين زواج المتعة
لأقضي حاجاتي، عندي 100 غرض بدي اجيبه، عندي اجار بيت، عندي شيء، عندي ملتزمات الحياة، عندي اولادي اكل شرب.
What this woman is promoting here is forbidden Islamically. Nowadays many Muslims are confused in what is permissible when it comes to marriage. People are often following their desires instead of doing what is right. In this video, Sheikh Abdullah Hakim Quick will go through the types of marriages which are forbidden in Islam.
Fornication and adultery is considered to be one of the worst things that people can get involved in. And Allah said, وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا إِنَّهُ كَانَ فَاحِشَةً وَسَاءَ سَبِيلًا. Do not come close to fornication and adultery. It is an abomination and will destroy everything. Okay? So the concept of a trial relationship. Okay, well, we'll just hook up together and, I'll try her out. She'll try him out. And then if everything fits, then we can get married. Okay, that does not exist within the Islamic framework because obviously the child, the lineage, the purity, the coming together in the eyes of Allah has to be recognized. Okay? So therefore, the issue of love before nikah is not haram. Yes, it's not haram if the love is feeling. You feel something, nothing wrong. But the action itself, that's where the problem is. So now, in terms of the prohibited types of marriages, we want to just look at a few. And these may not be, they may not be obvious to somebody who's coming into Islam. However, you need to know about this. Because sometimes new Muslims, people just accepting Islam, get caught up in these complicated issues and they get abused. So one of them is the nikah sirri, and that is secret marriages. So this is hidden unions without witnesses or public announcement. So he finds, the girl, and they come together, they have this feeling and everything, and he said, I'm a Muslim, you can come into Islam. She takes Shahada, quietly. He said, okay, we can get married, don't worry. You don't have to tell anybody. Danger. Because nikah is supposed to be public. People are supposed to know. And that doesn't mean necessarily everybody in the world knows, right? But it's not a secret. So Sheikh Yusuf then said that this type of marriage with no witnesses, no public announcement, it's invalid. Okay, so it's not actually a marriage itself. And when we say public, we're talking about even if it's just the family and friends. Doesn't have to be an announcement on, 680 News or anything, any public, no. As long as the family and the friends, know, then in a sense, it is public. And that's obviously to avoid exploitation and confusion. Okay, so again, any marriage not witnessed or announced is closer to zina, meaning fornication and adultery, than to lawful union. Okay, so it's actually a type of adultery that is going on. Okay, so-called permissible adultery. So this is a nikah sirri. Next, the next one that we move to, and that takes us to Mutah. And Mutah is temporary marriage. And Mutah, the history behind this is that in the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him, when Muslims were under attack by the Romans, attacked by the Persians, by the pagan Arab tribes, the Prophet would send people out to meet the enemy. And sometimes people would be going into distant land and be far away from home. They might not come home for a year, sometimes 2 years. And so therefore, when the soldiers complained about not having marital relationships, then it was allowed in the Prophet's time to have a temporary marriage. That is that he finds a woman and he marries her, not secretly, but he marries her. And it's only for a period of time. And if there's a child, he's responsible for the child. But it's possible that he leaves and he goes back to his home. And so the marriage no longer is valid. So that was allowed. But before the death of the Prophet, peace be upon him, he said in a number of hadiths that Mutah has been prohibited to the Day of Judgment. Okay, so it's clear. It's from hadith. It is very clear that Mutah was only something temporary in the time of the Prophet when people had faith. Okay, it was permissible. But unfortunately, some of the groups, the sects that broke away, and in this case it is the Shia, that broke away from the mainstream of the Quran and Sunnah, body which is 90% of the Muslims, they broke away, and some of the traditions that banned Mutah, they didn't accept the person who brought the tradition, although we actually have authentic ones based upon Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anh, who's their most important person. But in any event, within their theology, they accept the Mutah temporary marriage. So what is this in practical sense? And I've actually seen it up until today, people asking about it and even saying, should I do this? Where he says, okay, I love you, you love me, but there's too much we have in our life. Why don't we have a temporary marriage for the weekend and we'll get married, we'll go to Niagara Falls, we'll enjoy ourselves for the weekend, and then when Monday comes, we're not married anymore. So for those 3 days, they were married. After the 3 days, the marriage is dissolved. So people are actually doing this now. Okay, and there's so many negative things that can come out of this. Yes, it is done in some parts of the world. But again, the Prophet, peace be upon him, he clearly prohibited this. Because in a sense, marriage in Islam, it's supposed to be for life. When you marry somebody, you're marrying them for life, not temporarily. And this is not a battle that you're somewhere out for 2 or 3 years, in a foreign land, and you can't control yourself. We're not talking about that. And generally speaking, when it's done, it is done for corrupt reasons. It's just pure pleasure. But this is a reality, and if somebody's embracing Islam, if you are a new Muslim, especially a female, and somebody is coming to you and he wants to get married for 2 weeks and take you, he wants to take you to the Maldives. 2 weeks we'll be married. And then it's over. No, that does not work. When you're married, you're married. Your intention is for life. Okay? So this is the Mutah marriage. So it is a reality today on the ground. And it's a clear, strong stance that we take totally against this form of marriage. Okay? So the next is dealing with another one called Misyar. Okay, and this is one, again, where there's different positions in this. The Misyar, meaning travel or convenience marriages. Okay, so the people are now going to travel somewhere, and because they want to be halal while they travel, they're taking a summer vacation, and they want to be halal while they travel, and so they get married. And it's taken on a different name than the Mutah, because there's different, opinions. But again, Sheikh Yusuf Qaradawi, has that strong middle road. And he distinguishes between legally valid, right, a legally valid marriage, but ethically defective. So in other words, yes, you're traveling, they did it legally, and they're traveling, and they're not being as specific as a Mutah. Okay, but they're traveling. But ethically, in terms of ethically, it's wrong. It's defective, because marriage is supposed to be for life. Because any arrangement that strips away responsibility, protection, and transparency, it contradicts the moral spirit of marriage. And some have allowed this, especially in this age when we have some Muslims who have a lot of wealth and they travel to different parts of the world. So this has been abused. So this one for us also is not allowed, and if a new Muslim, comes upon this, they should avoid it. Okay? The next, forced marriages. And that is also rejected. And that is where the parents force, is usually the girl, they will force her to get married for whatever their reasons are. And the Quran says there's no compulsion in religion. And we recognize that even the great scholars, was said, a woman's consent is essential. So even those hardline people who are saying, for instance, we're going to have a marriage, so the male represents himself, but in some cases it's allowable for the woman's father or her wali to represent her in the marriage ceremony. The imam is supposed to get permission from her. If he doesn't get permission from her, then it's off. It's not allowed. Another important point to remember is that a previously married woman has more right to her husband than her guardian, and a virgin's consent must be sought. This is a saying of the Prophet, peace be upon him. Right? A thayyib, ahaqqu bi nafsiha min waliyiha. A previously married woman, that's the thayyib, okay? She has more right to herself than her guardian. So in other words, if a woman was married already, she can actually marry herself. Okay? And the person who represents her is called wakil. He's just a representative, but he's not the guardian, because the father or the guardian does have some authority or power in the marriage. But then the hadith says, and a virgin's consent must be sought. It must be sought. And in those days when, in a closed society as it was, where there was a very strong separation of male and female, and so the young virgin girls at that time were very shy. And when a man is presented to them, they weren't able to express themselves. But if they didn't like him, they would cry or look really sad, like that, because they were too shy to express themselves. And if that was the case, it's off. The marriage is not. So forced marriages, these arranged forced marriages, although in some cultures it's still there, in some cultures not as many as before, they're actually not Islamic. If somebody does it and it is the girl allows it, then it's okay, because she allowed it, like she wanted it. Okay, but otherwise, this is something not acceptable. Okay, next now, we're going to go on to the next, and that is commercial or transactional marriages. So that is a marriage for money, fame, or citizenship, without sincere intention to form a family. They are also condemned. And historically, in tribal areas, you will find that, one leader marries to another one because it creates a union between tribes. Okay, or it may be a commercial thing. So there's a bond that's created without even asking the girl. This is not acceptable in Islam. It is not a proper thing and should not, happen. Today, we have people who will get married and they say, okay, we'll get married in order for you to get a visa, a work permit. So I'm going to temporarily marry you. You come into the country, it's a transaction, pay me a certain amount of money, and then after a period of time, we're divorced. So it was literally a transaction. And however long it takes for the authorities to, get him through or her through, they stay married. Once the work permit or the citizenship comes in, marriage is over. That's transactional marriage. That one too is not allowed. It's not right Islamically for people to be doing this. And Sheikh Qardawi, calls these contracts of convenience that degrade the sanctity of nikah, of marriage. It degrades marriage, right? And Muslims should not be involved in this. Next, as we go on, exploiting vulnerable women, also temporary use of divorced, widowed, or refugee women under the pretext of helping them. Right? So you're going to help them. You have refugee, when we have some crisis zones. Okay? Under the pretext of helping them, and then you're exploiting them. Right? Based on lust. This is not right. If people are getting married, there should be the sincerity involved, and the intention to continue on in life in this marriage. Okay, so this is also something to avoid. Okay, so basically, in conclusion to this, the summary, the halal path to marriage. Number one, the intention should be a lawful intention based on faith, right? It is done for chastity and companionship. The search, now you made the intention, now you're searching in your choice to seek a spouse with religion and character. Okay, avoid arrogance, greed, and lust. Okay, so now you're getting there. Proposal. The khitbah comes in. Lawful engagement, not seclusion. Not seclusion. Okay, it's publicly with respect. Intentions made. Viewing is allowed. You should come together. Okay, so seeing the potential spouse, modestly. But that should not have privacy and touching. Intentions made. Now we're ready for the marriage. So the contract is done. There should be the consent of the girl. Witnesses. Dowry is given. Okay, the guardian, should be involved. Right, so this is the legal marriage. And then, of course, the walima is held. Doesn't have to be a huge ceremony, but some sort of gathering, should be held to enjoy. Even if it's just the family and a few people. Doesn't have to be a large gathering. Actually, in these times, it is preferable not to waste a lot of money on the walima or the khitbah itself, the intention, marriage. Okay?